Now I'm going to leave Penzance, but not on foot. And I'm not even going to leave in the right direction. I'm going aboard this vessel behind me, Scillonian III. I'm going in the wrong direction because I'm heading off towards the Isles of Scilly. We're going to St Mary's. You see, I thought you'd all done very well since we left Land's End. You worked very hard, you walked over difficult terrain. I thought you needed a rest. So how about a day out? We're going to join all these people who've gone aboard and have a day at sea and a day in the Isles of Scilly. Come aboard and I'll tell you the rest of it. There is, in my opinion, no finer way of spending a day than boarding the Scillonian in the early morning, bound for the Isles of Scilly. But as you can obviously see, she is not merely a pleasure boat. She is a vital link in the island's communication, industrial, domestic and economic system. All the essential supplies of food, fuel, building materials and domestic goods necessary to the inhabitants of Scilly are carried on this vessel. She is the island's lifeline, and they could not survive without her. There have been two other Scillonians. The first had 30 years of life, and the second served for 20. This vessel, Scillonian III, was built here in the West Country at Appledore in North Devon, and she can look forward to an equally long life afloat. Of course, the passenger side of the Scillonian service is equally important, and at least 90% of all the island's visitors travel aboard her. And there is no finer journey than that along the Cornish coast leading on to Scilly. For those of you who have never made this trip, I can promise you a wonderful day out. I can't promise any important political figures will be pacing the deck boards with you, but I do honestly believe that the mist which is at present covering the sea will lift before we get to St Mary's. Before our arrival at St Mary's, there is one man I think it essential you all meet. The master of Scillonian III, Captain Paul Rowe. Captain Rowe, are you very busy? Is it possible to have a word with you?
Well,
you've got, what have you got? Shipping on the radar?
Yes, a couple of shipping, one going away to the northwest, one coming up, you can just see them now, clearing in the mist.
Yes, because the mist seems, am I right? I'm probably trying to kid myself. Is it lifting a bit? Is it burning off?
Certainly better than it was. With a bit of luck, could have a nice afternoon.
Because since we've left Penzance, it's been pretty awful, hasn't it?
Well, on occasions.
Tell me something about this vessel, because she's not all that old. She's the Scillonian III, isn't it?
Yes. She was built in '77 in Appledore Shipyard, North Devon, and came into service in June '77.
Is there something particular about them? Because I believe they have a flattish bottom getting into the islands. Is that not right?
Well, they have shallow draft.
Yes.
I suppose flat bottom. We're limited at low water, both in the islands and at the mainland, Penzance. On occasions, we are barred from getting in because of too little water in Penzance. Weather permitting, we can always make Scilly, but sometimes only about a quarter of the ship alongside.
Because with this very impressive layout you have here, which looks to be as up to date as it possibly can be with all the radar, and I imagine that fog, which is a problem here doesn't worry you much anymore. I mean,
Well, it's a worry, but
Yeah.
we can overcome it. Going in through the islands in fog is a hazard, but we've got our set track, we follow the buoys, and there is a good picture on the radar.
But even though they have the helicopter service now, you really are a vital link with the island, aren't you?
Well, all the provisions are carried by us. We've got a lift up to 6 tons, which covers most things, buses, lorries, things like this.
How big a problem does pleasure shipping, I mean, by that I mean yachts and people like that in the summer who seem to appear out of nowhere out here in 10-foot open dinghies and things. I believe you've actually passed some.
Well, occasionally we get people doing the crossing in inflatables, small boats. In poor weather, this can be hazardous, certainly for themselves, but to shipping and rescue services that need to go to their aid. The yachts in Scilly can be a problem anchoring in our turning area. Hopefully today there won't be any, but on a busy season they do create problems.
You've got a few passengers back there who looked, I think unhappy is a good word. They're a bit huddled up and a bit unhappy, I think. Can we promise them any better weather?
Well, it's clearing up, a bit of blue sky there.
There is indeed too, isn't there, for us? Yeah. Well, I'll let you get on with getting us there, and I'll peer anxiously into the distance. Thank you very much, Captain.
Okay, that ship's going clear there.
Oh, lovely. Very warm and content there in the sun, sir. Where are you from?
Birmingham.
You've come on holiday from Birmingham?
Yeah, from Birmingham, yeah.
How long have you been down in Cornwall?
About a fortnight now, come this Saturday.
Have you enjoyed yourself out this so far?
Very, very much indeed, yes. The weather's been very reasonable, very, very good.
Is this your first trip across to the island?
First time, yes.
You're looking forward to going to St Mary's, I take it?
Oh, yes.
Do you know what you're going to do when you get there? Or are you going to just see
Not
what
really.
happens?
We're just warding off the sickness. We feel better now.
Did you not feel well?
Not at first.
You really got...
It's all right now.
What about you, my love, behind? Was this your first trip over?
We've been watching your program.
Where from?
Port Level.
Port Level?
Yeah.
We live
Well,
there.
you live there?
Yeah.
Well, you've come over before?
No, it's the first time.
You live in Port Level, you've never come over to Scilly?
6 years, we've never been here.
Well,
Good morning again, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
can't believe that.
We hope that you have enjoyed the trip so far. We are now approaching the island and will be alongside St Mary's in about 20 minutes. As the tide is high today, we shall be entering the island via Crow Sound. That is, between St Mary's and Tresco. These relatively large islands are uninhabited except by seabirds and the smaller colony of Atlantic grey seals. Ancient burial chambers are to be found on these islands, and on Nor, closest to St Martin's, excavation of a primitive village has been progressing for several years. The innermost of the eastern isles are the Great and Little Ganinics. The island with the castle-like rock is Guthers. The rock is a natural formation. Further to the north, to the left of the white beaches of St Martin's, lie the islands of Tian and St Helens, no longer inhabited. There are the remains of ancient buildings on both these islands, and the foundations of a 10th century hermitage of the Celtic church on St Helens. Tian was inhabited until the early 18th century.
May I have your attention, please? Excursion passengers are reminded that Scillonian III will sail from St Mary's at 4:30. The ship's whistle will be sounded at 4 o'clock, giving you half an hour's warning.
And having successfully negotiated the numerous hazards to shipping that surround these islands, we now have to face up to a most strenuous and exhausting time ashore, as we try to visit the whole island and as many of its people as we can in what is left of the day before returning to the mainland this evening. So if you want to come along on the next programme, be warned, it's going to be hard work. I left you in the last programme going ashore from the Scillonian, beginning a walk that will take me around the whole island of St Mary's, enjoying every aspect of its scenic beauty and endeavouring to meet as many of its people as I possibly can in the short time available before I reluctantly have to return to the mainland this evening. As I haven't had my lunch yet, and it's become a very warm day, where better to start than in one of the island's top-class hotels, the Bell Rock, where I can not only refresh those parts that often remain neglected, but also introduce you to its proprietor, Peter Corbett, and ask him to explain some of the pleasures and problems of his most essential profession on these islands. Looking at that, Peter, that's nearly 100.
Yes. Yes.
I knew it was warm. I didn't know it was that warm. That must make your responsibilities both as secretary of the Isles of Scilly Hotel and Guest House Association and proprietor of this hotel much simpler if you can promise weather like that, Peter.
Well, if you could promise it, then certainly would do, yes.
But it is one of the assets, I imagine, of advertising that you do have such splendid weather.
Well, it can be very nice. Most of the time it's a lot warmer than it is on the mainland, so we do have that particular advantage over many other resorts.
Well, the point of view of a season, Peter, how well blessed are you in that it must be considerably longer than anybody else's?
It is, very much so. We can start in March and go through to the end of October or into early November.
And do any of the hotels do trade at all throughout the winter? Would they be open if people wanted to come?
One or two of the smaller guest houses stay open, but mostly it's from early November until the end of February. It's generally fairly quiet.
Well, I think you'll have my support if you can promise me this. It's I could stay here for the rest of the week, I think. All this business rushing about. Well, you forget it all. That's the idea of coming, of course.
Of course it is,
You forget. You don't have anywhere to rush to, do you?
No, and a lot of people come here on holiday looking very grey and bent and downtrodden, and they go home upright and suntanned, and they've left all their worries behind them because the 28 miles between here and Land's End is, well, it might as well be the Atlantic Ocean as far as most people are concerned.
That surely is the essential quality, the feeling of, at last, being on an island.
Yeah. Yes, whether you come by sea or by helicopter, you left everything behind you, worries as well as the mainland behind. And when you land here, it's a different world altogether.
In every community, there is one person who becomes accepted as the local character. Here, it's Vic Trenwith, who's personally conducted bus tours of St Mary's, and lately his stage performances have made him an island celebrity. Vic, good afternoon.
Pleased to
I was
meet
hoping I'd see you because you're one of the people I've been told to come and see.
Oh, am I?
When I come here, yes, indeed.
I'm proud of that, didn't I?
Yeah, you ought to be proud of that, yeah. Your reputation spread across the whole of Cornwall and even further, you know. You've got to go and see Vic, they said, when you go on
very nice
St Mary's. I've got to ask you about your trips. You've probably retired now, haven't you? But
I haven't done
it
for about 10 years. Of course, I did all the transport at the airport for 33 years. That's when the service first started in 1937 on the airport out there.
Yes.
And they said the air service shared the golf course with the golfers.
That must have been difficult.
Well, often I've seen the pilot, Captain Dustin, get out there when he parked his aircraft, get out and just tell them off for not shifting when they saw him coming to land, you see.
Well, because if they didn't shout for, there's no reason for them to leave, is there?
Anyhow.
But you used to run the coach service around the island for the trip to the tourists as well, didn't you?
Used to do the tours in the evening and sometimes during the afternoon, you see. That's on the tours we used to explain most things about the island, you see, and we used to put quite a bit of humour in it. On the top, where we get a good view of the islands, I point out the islands to the people, and the Bishop Rock Lighthouse, where before the lighthouse was built, they said that they used to put people on that rock for punishment for petty theft. You see, if they murdered anyone, they weren't quite so fair in their punishment. They just had them up in front of the local magistrate and tell them not to do such a nasty thing again. But for other things, you see, they would have them there and they would be tried. And the last people known to be put out there for petty theft were people by the name of Trenwith, you see.
Which is your family name?
My family, and I don't know, what relation they were to me. They might have been my great-great-grandmother. I don't know grandfather, you see.
I could sit here with you for the rest of the day, Vic, but I've got
like
a lot of people to talk to, and I've still got to get back to the mainland sometime today.
I'm not much for talking.
No, I've noticed
I
that.
had 6 sisters and 5 were born before I was, and my mother was always very worried about me, wondering if I'm ever going to learn to talk. In fact, they thought it was stuck in my tongue when they decided to vaccinate me with a gramophone.
I think they did.
Yeah.
I'll see you again, Vic. I've got to go on.
Thanks for calling.
Bless you. You sit here in the sun.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Once Vic starts talking, it's very difficult to get away, you know. But we have to push on, for there's a great deal of the island still to see. Take this building here, for example. It houses the Island Museum. And it's a place I think you certainly ought to visit. The famous Isles of Scilly gigs have to be represented in such a place, if only to commemorate the part these boats have played in the island's history. This particular gig was once the attendant boat for the Bishop's Rock Lighthouse. Naturally, the majority of the museum's exhibits are concerned with ships, and here you can trace a history of the sea through the displays of coins, cannons and relics recovered from sunken vessels littering these island coasts. Wrecks such as the Association, when returning from the siege of Toulon in company with a naval squadron under Sir Cloudesley Shovel on the 22nd of October 1707, she went hopelessly off course in foul weather and ran onto a reef of rock, sinking in a few minutes with all hands. 4 other vessels in the squadron sank with her, and 1,800 men lost their lives. In 1798, another ship, the Colossus, dragged her anchors in a storm, taking to the bottom her cargo of priceless classical antiques, which included a unique collection of Greek vases. But the most famous wreck, and certainly that with the most tragic loss of life, was the SS Schiller. She sank on Friday, May the 7th, 1875. This tragedy was the subject of an award-winning documentary film made by Westward television film director John Bartlett.
9:58 p.m. on the night of May the 7th, 1875. The German mail steamer Schiller, one of the finest and largest ships afloat, is approaching the Bishop Rock Lighthouse in the Isles of Scilly on the final voyage for her owners, the Eagle Line of Hamburg, who have recently sold her to an American shipping company. She carries 264 passengers and 120 officers and men. The last entry in the logbook reads, fresh southwesterly wind, dense fog, speed 5 knots. Well, this is the Schiller's last voyage, not just for the Eagle Line. For 342 people, this is their last night on Earth.
The wrecks around these islands have long been used in the photographic skills of the Gibsons of St. Mary's. The fourth generation of this family, still practicing the art, is Frank Gibson. All right, Frank? Oh. I didn't want to stop you then, because I didn't know what particularly you were lining up on.
Oh, well, I've lined up, yeah. Okay.
Because this is really how you spend most of your life. You're known as much because of your photographs, but because of your family history here on the island as well, surely.
Of course, yes. Of course, I do live in a paradise, so that photography for me is well, it is sort of an interest because everything is so beautiful.
Is it a family pursuit, or is it just you that's...
Oh no, I am the fourth generation. My great-grandfather started in the very early days of photography. This would have been in 1860s. He, of course, was late in life when he started, but my grandfather, that's Alexander Gibson, he started at a very young age. They tell me, in fact, as a young boy, they would put him on a chair to focus the ground glass on the ground glass of the cameras. And of course, he lived until he was 90, so that he had a really good innings at photography. And I've been very fortunate that a lot of his old plates have been passed down to me. They've come down through the family.
And your love of these islands, your love of your birthplace, must play an important part not only in your photography, but I think in your enjoyment of living, Frank.
Oh yes, I certainly would not wish to live anywhere else. I'm sure in Great Britain. I have travelled quite a bit from one time and another, and I've really never seen anywhere to compare with these islands. There are so many of them, so many little scattered rocks that on our days off, on our weekends, we can go and land on a deserted isle and in fact have it all to ourselves, which is heaven, really.
You must have seen it change pretty drastically, particularly in the last 20 years, Frank. Has it had any profound effect on the islands at all? The influx of tourism, the influx of people from outside who now live here?
Yes, unfortunately, it has had an effect. The commercial life has become very much more, well, similar to the mainland, shall we say. Scillonians themselves are not really commercially minded, and none of them ever want to make a fortune. All we ask is that we can live in these places and exist. Whereas the mainland element that has come here bring that aspect of commercialization with them where they feel they must exploit everything. And it does jar us, actually.
there is no doubt about it. Scillonians love to be known as Scillonians, but they have integrated very well with all these people that have come from the mainland. The theatre clubs and Round Table Rotary, they all exist here quite happily.
Despite everything, though, Frank, you still live and are able to work on one of the last bastions of genuine peace and tranquility left to us in England. That must fill you with a great deal of joy.
It gives me tremendous joy to think that this really is a peaceful place, beauty all around me, hardly any cars, thank the Lord. Well, too many cars, but not enough to be annoying.
Well, I'm going to leave you to your peace and to your tranquility and to your work, Frank, because I still have a lot of people to talk to. Thank you for bothering to let me come and talk to you.
Nice to have seen you.
And you, Frank. Bye-bye. To the casual visitor, the islands are idyllic centres of the peace and tranquility described by Frank Gibson. Here, the visitor comes to relax and allow the tensions and stress of modern life on the mainland to drop away. But for the native-born Scillonians, life over the centuries has not been easy. Indeed, it's often been very, very hard, particularly for those trying to wrest a living out of the soil as farmers. The island's mild temperature make it possible for crops, especially flowers, to bloom far earlier than anywhere else in Western Europe. But survival means being always one move ahead of your competitors, something understood and practiced by Barnsley Ward. Barnsley!
Hello there.
I was going on up the house to find you. Don't have to walk so far. Am I stopping you working?
Well, just having a look at these. They're about ready to go into the sheds, yes, for grading and sterilising.
And what are these? Are these just ordinary daffodil bulbs?
Well, no, they aren't ordinary. In fact, this pile here, that's the complete stock in the world. They're a variety called Mando, which is a very early yellow trumpet, a greatly improved magnificence.
You see, that is all there is in the whole world?
Yeah. We've had them since, for 15 years, since we had a dozen bulbs, and we've built them up to that. Superseded some of the more conventional varieties like Golden Harvest and Magnificence.
What apart from this, what else do you have to grow in order to survive here on an island like this?
Well, in order to attempt to survive, one has to grow early potatoes, and that this year was fairly disastrous. But 1 or 2 beef cattle, and I'm thinking of going into growing garlic.
Garlic?
Well, it does grow well here. The wild allium grows, and onions grow very well here. And there is a market for the importing of garlic.
And it really brings home to me, too, the essential part the Scillonia plays in your life as well.
Well, the Scillonian is the single most important thing in the lives of the islanders. You know, we have councils and land stewards and helicopters, and whereas they're all necessary in their own way, the absolute essential thing is the Scillonian, which is the vital link, the lifeline of the island.
Because you tend, when you come across like me, to look upon it as a ship that gives you a pleasant ride in the sunshine if it's out, and that's it. But to you, it is absolute lifeline and way of
Well, we
life.
can't. I mean, everything you look at, from telegraph poles to newspapers and the pint of beer you drink, that comes on the boat, you know. And similarly, all the stuff that services our holidaymakers, which really subsidise the living for us all over here.
How do you see your future here in the island? Do you think it can all survive?
Well, I think so. You know, I think we're lucky. You see these reports of doom and disaster on the mainland in England, and things do get tight here, but by and large, I think it's a fairly hard-working community and progressive, and we shall survive. I think we should be one of the last places to go under, but it is tight here as it is in other places.
Well, I know one way that I'm going to survive, Barnsley, and that's if I catch my transport back to the mainland, and if I'm going to do that, I'm going to hurry. So thank you very much indeed, and it's been a joy to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Present-day prosperity of the islands owes a tremendous amount to tourism, which has brought a feeling of security to its people, even if it is only seasonal. Without tourism, a great many islanders would have been forced to leave the homes they love and make a fresh start on the mainland. However, tourism brings not only wealth but problems, and the job of encouraging visitors to Scilly and then sorting out their problems when they are here belongs to Roy Graham, the Tourist Board's representative on St Mary's. He is also one of the island's best advertisements, for he came here originally on a very short visit before leaving Britain for good to make his home abroad.
Yes, when I left the Royal Navy, I was intending to emigrate, and had some unfinished business here with diving. I wanted to dive around the island, but despite the fact that I loved the underwater scenery, I found that there was so much of interest about the rest of the islands that now I really don't care whether I go on diving or not. There's enough here to interest me. Whenever I leave, I feel unhappy. Whenever I come back, my heart sings. It's a great place.
So I now know why the Tourist Board have you here representing them. Well, what do you have to do for them? I imagine, although it looks beautiful enough not to need it, there must be a lot of things you have to do.
As you say, the islands don't really need it. They sell themselves. All the visitors say they come here for the peace, the tranquility, the friendliness of the people. They don't want it to change, and that's what it's all about. We don't want it to change either, but we do want to make sure that enough of them keep coming, because you must understand that these islands in the past have a history, sometimes of violence, sometimes of poverty, and it's only since the visitors started to come here that they've enjoyed a degree of affluence that they enjoy today. And we just want to make sure that things go on like that, keeping the balance between keeping the islands as they are and beautiful, but still making it nice so that the visitors come and give us a good living.
It's a balance, really, surely, that at one time looked as if most of them would have to literally leave the islands altogether, wouldn't it? Because there was nothing for them.
Oh, there have been periods in the island's history when things have been extremely bad. At one time, they used to earn their living burning kelp, which was a filthy job.
But you feel fairly happy about the future?
Provided that there's no despoilation, no commercialisation, no great alteration, then I think it'll be okay.
And they still keep their peace and their calm and their tranquility. Even for those of us like myself who roar in and out trying to talk to you all in the day. Well, thank you all very much. It's been fun, and I'm going to make my way home now, unfortunately. Will you walk across here with me, and then I'll hit the road again? You see the future very healthy, do you?
Oh, yes.
For the island?
Yes, it's extremely healthy. There are problems, of course. Because it's such an attractive place, a lot of people want to buy houses here. And, of course, poverty fetches a very high price, and that means there's fewer houses for our children and grandchildren to buy. These are very real problems, but they're ones that will have to be solved somehow in the future. Nobody's wise enough to know what we can do about that. We just do the best we can from day to day.
We've heard how Scillonian III plays such a vital role in keeping these islands supplied with all the commodities essential for contemporary life, and how the islanders could not survive without her. However, there is another means of transport, equally as important, but a great deal faster. The British Airways helicopter service that flies from Penzance to St Mary's. This has also added to the islanders' security, particularly in the case of serious illness, whereby patients can be swiftly flown to the mainland for treatment. It also provides for the visitor another dimension in understanding and enjoying these islands. And however sad and reluctant you are to depart, your journey home is enhanced by their breathtaking splendor when viewed from the air before the helicopter leaves them behind over the waters of the Atlantic.